Everyone wants cheaper groceries these days, but the question on every New Yorker's mind is, if grocery stores get subsidized, who's footing the bill? Because if Zohran Mamdani's plan works as advertised, someone still has to eat that cost. And I don't think folks are going to like it when they find out who's taking the hit.
Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. Surveillance pricing, collecting personal data to charge some people more than others for the same carton of eggs, for the same gallon of milk. All of this leaves too many New Yorkers feeling like groceries are out of reach. And that is frankly unacceptable, which is why city government is stepping in to make people's lives more affordable. Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread. Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line. Not for our seniors living on fixed incomes, nor for the parents who rely on a regular supply of apple slices to keep toddler tantrums at bay.
So city-run grocery stores, man, that sounds so nice. What a feel-good story. Oh, Mamdani, he's a man of the people. But let's get real. Is this really going to work? Let's look at the numbers and examine how this is going to work from an economic perspective. So Mamdani's plan is to discount select goods by 30% each month. He's looking at produce, meat, fish, dairy, bread, things like that. As much as it pains me to say, I got to give him a little props for keeping the food healthy and not discounting crap like Cheez-Its, although I love Cheez-Its. But I'm not doing this video today as a Cheez-It apologist. These goods that Mamdani is discounting makes up about half of what a typical grocery store sells, meaning that half of their inventory is going to be discounted by 30%. What this means is that revenues are naturally going to be cut by 15%. How is this going to economically work in an industry where profit margins tend to be about 1% to 2%? Despite what Elizabeth Warren said about Big Kroger, grocery stores don't make jack shit. So right there, that's a pretty tough number to square. And then you got to factor in how eventually over time, that number's probably going to skew. If half the grocery store is discounted at 30%, the motive to buy those goods is going to go up. They're naturally going to displace goods that aren't discounted. So that 15% revenue loss is going to skew closer to 30%. What this means, of course, is that these grocery stores will likely be operating at a loss. The Mamdani administration has even admitted as much. So the question then becomes, how is the city going to subsidize these grocery stores? The likely answer is pulling appropriations from the city's general fund. This is the same pool they pull funding for libraries, parks, and even transit. That thing Mamdani said he'd also make free. And long term, it's hard not to foresee a revenue squeeze happening as this program expands. The wealthy of New York City are already changing and adapting their behavior in a post-Mamdani world. And largely, this was happening before Mamdani was really even a major player. The city of New York has lost billions of dollars in wealth since 2018, which really accelerated during COVID. What that means is that Mamdani is going to be working with an ever-shrinking tax base to fund an ever-growing city budget. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're expanding social programs with a shrinking tax base, that doesn't strike me as being very sustainable long term.
And just as important as money, those savings add up to time. For many, that 30% discount is the difference between an evening spent around the dinner table with family or working another double shift to make ends meet. Our vision of affordable, well-run, city-owned grocery stores can only be accomplished with experienced operators who know how to source products, stock the shelves, and help answer shopper questions. So today, we are also issuing an RFP for private operators to help us with the day-to-day management of our 5 city-run grocery stores.
How is this going to affect local business? So the good news is that there are only going to be 5 stores to start with. They'll be serving approximately 250,000 people, which amounts to about 4% of New York's population. And when you couple that with the fact that most of these grocery stores are getting placed in areas of need where there aren't a lot of grocery store options to begin with, the impact on small business might be overstated. That being said, the city has explicitly not done a small business impact study. Why the fuck not? Plus, all signs point to this being a pilot program to being expanded down the line. How will we know the negative effects of this on small businesses if it serves, let's say, 10% of the population, 15, 30. At that point, you're going to be hurting a lot of small businesses. Mamdani and his predecessor will likely be faced with a serious balancing act. How do you give this 30% discount to New Yorkers for groceries while also preserving the small businesses and the corner bodegas that give New York its signature character? If Mayor Mamdani wants his plan to succeed, he has to do a small business impact study to see how this is going to affect the larger economy. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at a highly homogenized city and hundreds of thousands of people out of work.
If you know how to run a grocery store and you want to do more to help your fellow New Yorkers, I encourage you to head to grocery.nyc or scan the QR code to learn more about how to apply. As we make these stores a reality, we are committed to ensuring those who work here will have good contracts for good jobs, with store workers receiving family-sustaining wages and benefits. In the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest country, in the history of the world, no New Yorker should have to worry about being able to afford to feed their family.
This is really what you want to do to make things more affordable for New Yorkers? And this is really the biggest issue I take with Mamdani's plan. There are so many things he could be doing to make New York City more affordable. Sure, lowering grocery prices by 30% sounds nice, but at what cost? You're still using taxpayer money to subsidize these stores that will certainly be operating at a loss. So New Yorkers are still paying for it, just on the other end. And like I said earlier, this effect is going to be felt even harder than it is now because of New York City's shrinking tax base. This means running these stores will put more pressure, not less, on working class and middle class people over time. But let's look at the big picture though. If you're trying to lower costs for New Yorkers in a substantial way, is cutting grocery costs really the best way to do it? Probably not. New Yorkers spend 30 to 50% of their income on housing. Why not try to lower the cost of housing? That's by far people's biggest expense, and people are getting raked over the coals with housing costs and property taxes. New York City is a special case too because vacancies sit at between 1% and 2%. This means there is a lot of market pressure to force prices upward, but there's also a lot of regulation as well. If you want prices of housing to fall, deregulate the housing market. This will allow developers the freedom to build more and increase your supply. Over time, this will increase the amount of vacancies, which will at least curb the prices, if not start to drive costs down. The next thing is you got to get rid of affordable housing policies and rent freezes. This is so stupid, and I covered this in another video I had. This is a major problem. Economists have known for decades that rent freezes, rent control, rent stabilized units do nothing but drive overall costs of housing up. Look at what Austin, Texas did. They completely deregulated their housing market and prices began to drop. And it's not major things either. It's simple things like reducing the minimum lot size, allowing multifamily units, all sorts of little things like that that can make a huge difference in the supply of housing. New York City just needs to do it. Lowering property taxes would also be a huge help. The city of New York collects some of the highest property taxes in the country. I get it, they're a big city, but come on. That's what really hits people's pocketbooks too. Especially for folks that have already paid off their home. It's just a slap in the face. And then on top of that, what about business deregulation? Getting rid of barriers to entry for starting a business, lowering costs on operators, lowering annual fees, lessening business insurance requirements, things like that. All these will let New Yorkers keep more of the money they earn. So yeah, 30% off select groceries is nice. That is going to make a much bigger difference. But instead of these common sense ways to cut the cost of living, what's Mamdani going to do? He's a self-proclaimed socialist. So he's not going to roll anything back. He's just going to squeeze the tax base further and further into oblivion under the guise of reducing cost of living, all while hurting the very people he's claiming to help. Now let's be real, this isn't new. Mamdani is doing what socialists do best. Enact policy that sounds good in its face, that pulls well with voters, but at the end of the day, is at best a band-aid solution over a much worse problem, and at worst, something that's going to cause major economic problems downstream. Anyways, that's all for me today, guys. Please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you like this sort of content, and hit that notification bell so you're notified as soon as new content drops. Thanks, guys. Hit that subscribe button and check out the link on screen. Come on, you know you want to do it.